Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the 13th part of the interviews that are recently held about English, the subject, English literature and linguistics in Ppsc. So these are the questions which are lately asked in some recent interviews. So let's go towards the questions. So first question today is, what is non-linguistic communication? So when we talk about non-linguistics communication, so it means not using the language. So here, one thing is for sure, that we're not using the language. So this is imparting the knowledge or information without having to use the language. Or in other words, it is receiving the messages without communication system. So it includes your non-verbal communication, as well as the paralinguistic features in which you use your tone, your stress patterns, intonation. So all those things are the part of non-linguistic communication. So this is not anything to do, this has got nothing to do with the words themselves, but how you pronounce them, or what are your expressions, how are you taking your pauses, what is your non-verbal movement. So all those things are included in this. So this is non-linguistic features. So next question is Puritanism. So Puritanism is from Christianity. The Puritans were English Protestants. So this is a fragment or sect or further division of the Protestant church. It was developed in 16th and 17th centuries. So they basically wanted to purify the English Roman Catholic practices in the church, and that they thought that Church of England had not been fully reformed and it should become more Protestant. So they were more adherent, they were more strict in their philosophies. The beliefs or the principles of a group of English Protestants of 16th and 17th century. So this is what Puritanism is, under the Elizabeth I. And they basically talked more about certain things, like when we talk about those Puritans who came to America in New England. So they were of the view that singing, dancing, theater, reading novels, all these things are under devil's influence, so these were forbidden. So English जो theater था, Protestants के दौर में इसको बंद किया गया, क्लोज किया गया, क्योंकि इनके जो रूल्स थे क्वाइट वायलेंट थे और बहुत ज्यादा ये स्ट्रिक्ट थे. सो सैलम में देखते हैं जो प्यूरिटन्स द क्रूसिबल में यूज हुआ जिस तरह इनकी टर्म्स, तो वहां पे डांसिंग भी अलाउ नहीं थी, रीडिंग नॉवल भी अलाउ नहीं था. सो मार्था जो जाइल्स कोरे की वाइफ होती है, उसे इसलिए ये लटका देते हैं कि वो नॉवेल्स पढ़ती थी. सो इट वाज लिंक्ड विद सुपरनैचुरल. कंसीट्स. सो कंसीट्स जब भी हम बोलते हैं, हमें जॉन डन और मेटाफिजिकल पोइट्री हमारे सामने आती है. सो दिस इज एन इंजीनियस और फैंसीफुल कंपैरिजन और अ मेटाफर व्हेन वी लिंक टू far-fetched थिंग्स विद ईच अदर. कि जिस तरह एक कंपास की एग्जांपल देता है जॉन डन, कि अब कंपास इज अ मैथमेटिकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट व्हिच इज is not linked with love at all, लेकिन he links it with love in such a way कि बिल्कुल difference feel नहीं होता कि how come a mathematical instrument may be connected to love affair. So एक एंड को जिसकी निब होती है और जो कि pierced होता है पेपर में, so he compares it with his wife and the roaming end उसे अपने आप से कंपेयर करता है. उसकी वाइफ रो रही होती है तो उसे एक तरह से तसल्ली देते हुए कहता है कि मैं उस एंड की तरह हूं जो बाहर जाएगा और वो एक चक्कर लगाएगा, लेकिन जब वो चक्कर लगाएगा उसका झुकाव जैसा कंपास का होता है प्रकार का दूसरे एंड की तरफ ही होगा, यानी मेरा झुकाव तुम्हारी तरफ होगा, मैं तुम्हारे बारे में सोच रहा हूँ और मैं वो पूरा चक्कर कंप्लीट करके जिस तरह हम कंपास को बंद करते हैं इस तरह घर वापस आ जाऊंगा. हाँ, अगर पीछे से कोई 2 नंबरी तुम्हारे साइड से हुई, यानी तुम अपनी जगह से हिली तो मैं भी बाहर, मेरा भी रास्ता खराब हो जाएगा। सो एक तरह से उसे वार्निंग भी देता है हल्की सी कि मेरे से लॉयल रहना। सेकेंडली, एक और जगह पे वो उसे 7 स्लीपर्स डैन, अब 7 स्लीपर्स जो असहाब कहफ का वाकया जो कि कुरान में है, बाइबल में है, उससे कंपेयर करता है लव अफेयर से, कि भाई एक दूसरे से मिलने से पहले हमारी लाइफ ऐसे थी जैसे कि हम उन 7 स्लीपर्स की तरह थे, जो सो रहे थे, उन्हें नहीं पता चला दुनिया कितनी चेंज हो चुकी है। जब उठे तो दुनिया बिल्कुल डिफरेंट थी, सिक्के, नोट, करेंसी, हर चीज बदल चुकी थी, लोग बदल चुके थे, किंग बदल चुका था। सो एक दूसरे से मिलने से पहले, लव में एक दूसरे को जानने से पहले, हम वो एक ऐसी लाइफ गुजार रहे थे कि हम सोए हुए थे। जब हम उठे तो हमें पता लगा, यानी एक दूसरे से मोहब्बत करने के बाद हमें पता लगा कि असल जिंदगी क्या है। 4 levels of Wordsworth's poetic creation. So ये भी क्वेश्चन अभी recent interviews में पूछा गया. So these are the 4 levels. So at first stage, the poet observes some object, situation, or phenomena of nature. However, the poetic expression does not take place at that very moment. Rather, the observations are stored in poet's heart. Next, in moments of tranquility, the poet recollects those emotions excited by objects, situations, or phenomena. Then he contemplates on these emotions. Consequently, after contemplation, there comes the gradual revival of the emotion kindred to that which was before the subject of contemplation. Thus, the poet is once again in a similar emotional excitement to what he experienced when he first saw the object. Wordsworth says that in this mood, successful composition generally begins. So this is the explanation of his theory, or his definition of poetry, that poetry is spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings reflected in tranquility. कि पोइट पहले उन चीजों को ऑब्जर्व करता है नेचुरली, जैसे ये लंदन में था, नहीं लिख पाता था, तो उन आइडियाज को अपने हार्ट एंड माइंड में स्टोर कर लेता है, और फिर जब उसे सुकून मिलता है तो वो फिर उन आइडियाज को, इमेजेस को रिफ्लेक्ट करता है, फिर उनके ऊपर गौर करता है, और फिर उनको ऐसे लिखता है कि वो इमोशंस दोबारा से इरप्ट होते हैं, और वो चीजें अगेन उसके सामने इस तरह मूव करती हैं। यानी इमेजिनेशन इतनी स्ट्रांग होनी चाहिए कि वो उनको इस तरह ही देख रहा होता है जैसे उसने फर्स्ट टाइम उनको देखा, जब उसका दिल किया कि वो उनके ऊपर लिखे। Then, who were the Martian poets? So these were the poets के ये बेसिकली एक माइनर मूवमेंट थी ब्रिटिश पोइट्री में लेट 1970s और अर्ली 80s, in which everyday things and human behavior are described in a strange way, as if by a visiting Martian who does not understand them. Poet most closely associated with it are Craig Rain and Christopher Reed, जो कि इससे related है। So basically जो एक strange किस्म की चीजों को describe करना या behavior को, ये इस चीज का एक बेसिक, आप यूं कह सकते हैं, इसका एक हिस्सा था। यानी दैट कैन बी, जो मार्शियन है इसको हम विजिटिंग मार्शियन, जो मैंने वर्ड यूज किया, दैट कैन बी डिस्क्राइब्ड एज some person who is imaginary and visiting from something abroad. And then coming to the next question, Georgian poets. So who were the Georgian poets? So Georgian poetry, a variety of lyrical poetry introduced in the early 20th century by an assortment of British poets, including Abercrombie and Edmund Charles and Rupert Brooke, William Henry Davies. ये सारे जो थे ये Georgian poets थे, and it refers to a series of anthologies showcasing the work of a school of English poetry that established under the rule of King George V in United Kingdom. Next, we have ending of a doll's house. Is that ending justified or not? So there are, so this question is up to your own choice. Like if they ask you your personal opinion, so you can go either ways. So, but the matter is, like for Nora, her action was the right thing. She felt trapped. She felt like a plaything, like that is taken down from the shelf when her husband deemed her worth paying attention to. She had no fulfillment, no individuality. Torvald not only doesn't treat her as a wife, he can't even comprehend what she did for him. He leaves her hanging, no sport, no indifference. This realization that there isn't and has never been any love between them seals her decision to leave. And there's a textual line. Our home has been nothing but a playroom. I have been your doll wife, like a doll wife, doll hyphen wife, just as at home I was Papa's doll child. So she believes कि उसको एक टॉय की तरह यूज किया जाता है कि when she is needed उससे खेला फिर उसको फेंक दिया तोड़ दिया. Her exit is a new start and the chance to grow up and be a woman. So I believe that this would be a better ending, or this ending may be justified if she was not treated well. There is another theory about it जो कि हम सुनते हैं कि her leaving the door or जिस door को slam करती है and then it is left open. So that is a reference that she may be coming back, because in the society that is male dominated society, she may not be surviving. So for any cost or for the sake of her children, she may have to come back. But this is what we imagine may have happened or could have happened or would happen. लेकिन यहाँ पे अभी तक जो हुआ उस लिहाज से we feel that ending is justified one. Next question is Coleridge's philosophy. So जो Coleridge, S.T. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, इसकी philosophy क्या थी? The Coleridge जो है, he used his poetry to explore conflicting issues in philosophy and religious piety. Some critics argue that Coleridge's interest in philosophy was simply his attempt to understand the imaginative and intellectual impulse that fueled his poetry. Like he talks about suspension of disbelief, कि वो इस तरह के images दे जो कि disbelief को suspend कर दें, because he was writing more about supernatural. इसका जो जहाँ तक इसके religious belief, फिर इस again poetic beliefs में इसका जो ताल्लुक था उसमें diction के मामले में he wanted diction to be a good one, supreme one. Wordsworth के मुकाबले में he disagreed with Wordsworth on diction, his spontaneous overflow or ये जो free verse type. So he was against it. He wanted an embellished kind of diction. Moreover, he was also a Unitarian preacher जो कि 1796 और 97 के दरमियान रहा, और Church of England को ये he returned in to that in 1814. फिर इसके आगे जो इसकी political thinking थी, he was a profound political thinker. He was a political radical and enthusiast for the French Revolution. So he wanted that French Revolution वो उस चीज से inspired था, and he wanted such glory happen everywhere where people are not subjugated anymore and they should be given a chance to live. Russian writers, so they ask you about Russian writers कि वो कौन थे, so you can tell the names. उसमें हमारे पास Leo Tolstoy था, War and Peace लिखा जिसने, Anton Chekhov, The Cherry Orchard and the Bear, जो इसका एक मशहूर वर्क था. फिर हमारे पास Fyodor Dostoevsky, एक I guess I'm taking the correct name because ये इनके नाम बड़े different किस्म के होते हैं रशियन के. So ये कुछ writers थे जो कि Russian writers हैं. उसके अलावा हमारे पास Ivan Benin था एक, Joseph Brodsky was a Russian writer, Alexander somewhat starting with G, then Boris Aquinin. तो ये Russian famous writers थे जिन्होंने अच्छा literature लिखा. Salient features of the novels of Thomas Hardy. So Hardy is associated primarily with pessimism, gloom, fate, and tragedy. He is liberal, but an evolutionary pessimist, and aesthetic view that sees us becoming doomed. To him, life is cruel, and characters get trapped, and there is even some bitterness there is some positive affirming attitude that we see somewhere, but that is overwhelmed by his use of pessimism that is prevailing because of the nature, because of situation, because of fatalism. And also we find the role of chance and coincidence that is prevailing his novels. And एक और उसमें जो है वो जो हीथ है, दैट प्लेस, जो वेसेक्स नॉवेल्स हैं, जो वेसेक्स एरिया है, इसको वो बड़ा डिफाइन करता है अपने नॉवेल्स के अंदर. Do you find existentialism in the novels of Hardy? So when we talk about his novels, we get to know that he viewed man principally from the existential point of view. The unifying element in his existential perspective was his preoccupation with human existence in metaphysical form. Hardy's pessimistic ideas in his major novels, they foreshadowed existentialism in modern literature. ये अलग बात है कि उसे नहीं पता था तब तक कि निश्चय की philosophy क्या है या existentialism जो basically theory आ रही है वो क्या है, but we find some element of existentialism in his work. So these were questions from lecture 13 or interview 13 video. Thank you very much.